guys, welcome back to The Meaning of Life. My name is Ever. If you're new to the channel and if you're new to Spiritism, well, today we're going to be talking about some things that you can do to learn a bit more about what the Spiritist codification is like, a little bit more about the spirit world, and also about how you can go about becoming a better person and applying this in your day-to-day lives. Here are the 5 things you can do if you're new to Spiritism. Of course you can watch movies. So I've gathered a list of the top 5 movies that have come to mind that I think will add on to the information about the spirit world, Spiritism, and in general notions about what happens when we die, what happens, what we can encounter on the other side. So here are the number 5 movies that I would recommend. First, I would recommend the movie Kardec, which talks about how Spiritism was codified. It talks about Allan Kardec's life when he was composing the Spiritist doctrine. So let's take a look at the trailer.
All over Paris, people everywhere are going mad over this table phenomenon.
Despair in this darkened world. That alone could explain this belief in otherworldly spirits.
Let's put an end to this farce.
They're here. They're all around us. I can't tell the dead voices from the real ones. Even people I can see and talk to, I'm not sure.
Well, to do that, I need a method. A rational scientific study based on facts. I put forward the same question to different mediums. If the answer I received was the same, then we would have to assume the answer came from one singular origin. The world is moving toward a revolution, one that will define our lives to come. I give you the Spirits book. A toast.
Allan Kardec!
This is the result of my vanity.
Those aren't the words of the man I married.
Unshakable faith is that which is capable of facing reason without fear. That is the simple truth.
After this, we have a movie, Astral City, A Spiritual Journey. This is a movie about the spirit Andre Louis and his journey through what we call hell, and also what he encounters after that.
Acorda!
Olá, André. Como está?
Que lugar é esse? Quem são vocês? O que aconteceu aquilo comigo?
Todas as suas perguntas vão ser respondidas no tempo devido.
Mises, eu preciso de explicações.
A vida na Terra é que é uma cópia daqui, André. Mas tudo aqui tem um porquê e um sentido, como você vai ver.
Meu Deus! Como posso mandar uma mensagem para a minha família? Eu preciso vê-los.
Como ele era, Clarice?
Ele era um homem bom, não tinha muito tempo pra gente.
Amados irmãos, uma grande guerra
De alcance mundial começa. Milhões de almas voltarão em breve.
Eu não vou esperar anos e anos para retornar. Vamos embora.
Me perdoe.
há corações orando por você.
André, o mundo precisa de histórias felizes.
Um dia você vai entender. É sempre tempo de recomeçar. Alguma vez você imaginou vida depois da vida?
Then we have the movie Chico Xavier, the film, which is the movie about the greatest medium of the 20th century. Chico Xavier psychographed channeled over 400 books given to us by spirits on the other side, which gave us a slew of information about the spiritual world and about what we can encounter on the other side. Let's take a look.
Você tá escutando, Chico? Tem um espírito amigo aqui. Você já psicografou?
Ele já foi chamado de louco e santo, fraude, um fenômeno da humanidade.
Seu padre, eu tô com muito pecado nas costas.
Mas o que foi agora? Escutou, gritou de alma penada?
Você garantiu que ia ficar junto de mim.
Eu tô junto de você.
Que história é essa de ver coisa do outro mundo, filho?
Isso é coisa de quem tem coisa com o diabo.
Conta pra um.
Me coloco aqui sob o amparo de nossos amigos espirituais.
Vai mesmo falar com ele, né?
Pra quê? Não é ninguém que vai trazer de volta aquilo que nós perdemos. Entenda isso!
Agora não vai faltar mais mãe pra ninguém, viu?
Tinha um moço do meu lado, me ajudando.
Quem garante que cura esse povo todo tem que curar seu irmão.
Você quer mesmo saber sobre o que acontece com você?
Quero. Cara, o corpo dela tem pouca valia.
O espiritismo é a obra mestra do engano.
Essa casa tá um inferno. Você sai a gente.
Espetáculo completo.
Querida mãezinha, peço perdão pelo ato que tive.
O Eduardo jura que a arma disparou sem querer. Você acha que se a gente perdoar o seu filho, ele vai se livrar da cadeia, é isso? Eu não acredito no senhor, isso aqui é uma farsa.
Tem coisas nessa carta que dizem respeito a você e a outras pessoas.
Ninguém pode voltar atrás e fazer um novo começo. Mas qualquer um pode recomeçar e fazer um novo fim.
O senhor é espírita? Não, eu sou ateu.
Then we have Deadline according to Chico Xavier. This is more of a documentary about what's going on currently in the world. It's here to talk about the planetary transition and what we're all facing, why we're going through coronavirus, why we are having all of these challenges now, why didn't it happen earlier, or why isn't it going to happen further into the future. It talks about the importance of what is currently happening nowadays, which is the planetary transition. We are currently transitioning from a planet of expiations and tests to a planet of regeneration. So let's take a look at what this means.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Todas as religiões do mundo apontam para um momento único no futuro da humanidade, no qual a realidade será drasticamente transformada por um evento singular.
Porque nós vamos compreender que fazemos parte de uma família universal.
Esse evento dará início a uma nova era existencial para todos os seres que compartilham o planeta Terra. Será um momento onde a humanidade reencontrará suas origens e descobrirá o seu papel no universo em que está inserida. Mas quando isso acontecerá? Teria a humanidade um prazo para adequar sua postura moral a esta nova realidade? Qual seria sua data limite?
Then we have a movie that you may already have seen. This is a movie from 1998. It's called What Dreams May Come. And this is a movie that talks semi-accurately, I mean in a Hollywood way, about what happens when you die, what happens if our kids die, what happens during depression, suicide. These very polemic topics that we need to address are given with great visuals through this movie. Let's see what this movie's about.
I love you, Bug.
I love you too.
I'm the doctor. Don't move.
The moment that comes for everyone. Has come for Chris Nielsen.
You've died, Chris.
If heaven is a place where you know only joy.
Oh! Boy, I screwed up. I'm in dog heaven.
You're creating an entire world here, from your imagination, from anything you want.
Where you feel no more fear.
I'm gonna drown.
You can't, you're already dead.
Oh.
And anything you can imagine is real.
It's your world!
Could you let go of the love you left behind?
I need Annie.
That'll change in time.
Time does not exist here. And wherever it went, it's not gonna make me need Annie any less.
And how far would you go?
You never see her.
I'm her soulmate.
To get it back.
I can find her.
Your wife, love you is strong.
You just get me there.
Robin Williams.
It's not about understanding.
It's about not giving up.
Cuba Gooding Jr.
You find her. You can do it. I believe in you.
Annabella Sciorra.
I'm still here, babe. I still exist.
What dreams may come.
Alright, so we have the movies, but in addition to movies, it's important that we use other resources to learn more about the spirit world. So the next recommendation is to read books. So the first book you may recognize from the previous list of the movie is Astral City, A Spiritual Journey. This book actually inspired the movie. So this book was channeled by Chico Xavier, given to us by the spirit of Andre Luis. And it's a book about Andre Luis, who was a doctor who died in the early part of World War II, and describes his transition into the spirit world, going through what we mainly call hell, but more appropriately call the umbral. And he talks about being rescued from the umbral, being taken into an astral city called Unosular, and then talks about the little minute details of what we can all encounter when we go into the spirit world. I'm not saying that we're all going to hell or that we're all going to pass through the umbral, but it's important that we just discuss some of the possibilities of what we can face when we make our own transition. The second book is Violets on the Window, channeled by Vera Lucia, given to us by the spirit of Patricia. This is a book about 19-year-old Patricia who disincarnated, and she talks about her transition into the spirit world, talks about the little details of what people wear, about how people take care of their hair. It gives us how people relate to each other, those who are still alive or incarnated, and those who are disincarnated. How can we go about communicating between these two planes? And also talks about what people wear, what people eat. Do people go to the bathroom on the other side? Do people sleep? So it's a really fascinating book. I definitely recommend this one. Now the next book is a very serious book, but still full of information. The next book is Memoirs of a Suicide, channeled by Ivone Pereira, given to us by the spirit Cabilo Castelo Branco. This is a book about a famous Portuguese writer in about 1890 that committed suicide because he ended up becoming blind and ended up losing all the will to live. He talks about going through into the spirit world, being taken through unknown forces to the Valley of the Suicides, which is where like-minded spirits who have committed suicide are located, and then relates his experience as what one can encounter there, what happens during this transition, but also he talks about what happens after that. It's important that we read this book because nowadays, with coronavirus and all that we're facing, mental health is of the utmost importance. Stay tuned until the end so we can talk about this a bit further. The next book is a pretty polemic book as well. The next book is Sex and Destiny, which was channeled by Chico Xavier and Valdo Vieira, given to us by the spirit Andre Luis. And this book is actually a part of a series given to us by the spirit of Andre Luis, known as The Life in the Spirit World. Whereas The Astral City, A Journey in the Spirit World, is the first book. This is a later part of the series. So it dives into the habits that we have, the sexual habits that we have as humans. It gives us a window. It lets us peek into this idea of cause and effect in the universe, and how the habits that we maintain while we're incarnated carry over into the spirit world, and what that may mean to us. It describes where we go, what we do, and it really dives into details as to what these sexual experiences can have for us. The next book is Life in the World Unseen, channeled by Anthony Borgia, given to us by the spirit Robert Hugh Benson, who was a Catholic Monsignor. He was a very devout Catholic. He followed his religion quite faithfully and talks about what happens when he transitions over, what he encounters in a very detailed way. It is a very comprehensive view as to what we can encounter in the spirit world. He talks about what the plants are like, what the water is like, what the construction materials of buildings are like. Wait, did you say buildings? Of course. I mean, a lot of people have this idea that the spirit world, or when we go to heaven or hell, that we're only going to see fire and flames, or that we're going to be living on top of clouds playing harps. No, no, spirit world is full of buildings, architecture, beauty, construction. How are these buildings built? How are they joined together? What is the engineering that goes behind these buildings? So take a look at this book. This book is a very comprehensive view as to what we encounter after our physical death, what we encounter when we disincarnate. So if you're really interested about learning a lot more about this, take a look at all these books. You're gonna find a lot of information. And if there are some books that maybe I haven't mentioned, please leave it in the comments below. I'm fascinated and I'm looking for more books that may bring more light, more information to our world, that illuminate our reality. So if you're a spiritist, it's important that we also dive into the spiritist codification. As once said by a Brazilian medium, Divaldo Franco, Spiritism is not a religion of the future. Rather, it is the future of religions. What does this mean? Essentially, Spiritism is not here to get rid of this belief, that belief, or these religions. Every religion is important, but on top of that importance, it's crucial that we are planting our beliefs on concrete foundations, on beliefs that coincide with science, on beliefs that go forward with observation, go forward with rationality, and not against it. We need to move forward in progressing into intellect. So that is science and religiosity, science and spirituality need to work hand in hand for humanity to move forward. Spiritism is not only here to talk about the world, but it's also here to illuminate our path from brothers and sisters who are already really evolved in their path, who have been around for much longer, and who have come into direct contact with us to give us these important messages. So the first book, the Spirit's book, this is a book composed of 1,019 questions, and it's full of an infinite amount of information that really illuminates the ideas of what is God, what is morality, what is good and evil, how do we move about our lives, and dives into one of the biggest philosophical questions that humanity has had for eons. And now we are able to get some insight from much wiser brothers and sisters of ours in the other side. Then we have the Medium's book. This is the practical aspect of Spiritism, illuminating us as to what abilities there are in terms of mediumship, how you can determine if you're a medium, and also the do's and the don'ts of being a moral medium. If you want to channel good spirits, if you want to help humanity elevate themselves, if you want to move forward into moral ground and also follow the evolution that the planet and that humanity is going, then the Medium's book is the right book. It helps us also determine if we're channeling some spirit, how can we determine if this is a good spirit or a bad spirit? The reality is, just because it's a spirit doesn't mean that they know everything. Just because it's a spirit doesn't mean it's all wise and all knowing. It's important to understand that just like in the real world out there, there are good people and there are bad people. There are people who tell the truth. There are people who lie and manipulate. So there will be spirits. When you're a medium, that you can invoke certain spirits, we need to be able to understand how we can determine if who we're evoking is a good person or a bad person. Who we're channeling is a spirit who's telling the truth, who's in line with universal fraternity, who is in line with God's message of love, or if it's a spirit that is there to manipulate, to laugh at you, to distort information, and to pollute the waters. Then we have the Gospel according to Spiritism. This book is an interpretation of Jesus' gospel being brought up, being updated into the 21st century. Now, just because it's updated doesn't mean that we're changing things. This simply interprets the gospels in the light of Spiritism, in the light of universal love and acceptance. This is information that our brothers and sisters on the other side have given to us to help guide us through the moral dilemmas that we all face every day. This book is full of rich information that we can all learn from and all take away from and apply in our everyday lives so that we can become better people in the end. Then we have Heaven and Hell. This book dives into the law of cause and effect, what we can expect as our punishment or reward through a very logical and rational lens. It gives us a deeper understanding, a deeper notion into justice, punishment, reward. It talks about what one can experience as being hell and what one can experience as being heaven, how one goes about this, and it even offers us some accounts of spirits when they transition over to the other side. What do they experience? They talk about they're going through hell. They talk about they're going through heaven. They talk about the rewards and punishments from people of different social standings and of different moral evolution, like kings and queens, politicians, normal people. It gives us an insight as to what they encounter from themselves. And then last, but definitely not least, we have Genesis. This book talks about the creation story, the story of how humanity was developed, how the universe was developed. how the world was created under the light and guidance of our brothers and sisters on the other side. The reality is that Spiritism does not go against science in any way. In fact, Spiritism stands alongside proven scientific ideas and does not go against anything scientific whatsoever regarding the creation story, regarding the universal reality in which we all live. But it calls the scientific mind to be logical and rational, especially about things that our experiments and our scientific instruments cannot yet detect. One day we will, though. So doing the gospel at home is the next tip that we give, because it gives us a way of finding guidance and illuminating the complicated situations that we all face in our day-to-day lives. You can do the gospel at home once a week or even every day. It's ideal that you select one specific time during the day, whether the morning, evening, night, it doesn't really matter, but that you also join together with your brothers and sisters, your family, your partner, your dog, your cat, everybody around you to gather, to be united so that we can all hear the good word. Next thing that's important is for you to pour a glass of water for everybody attending. So pour a glass of water for yourself, for your partner, for your dogs and cats, for your family members, so the good spirits can energize our water. We can talk about this in future videos if you leave and request this in the comments below. Next, you get the book, The Gospel According to Spiritism. Now, before you even open the book, it's important that we start the session by praying to God, asking for Jesus' blessings and the guidance from our good spiritual brothers and sisters to illuminate, to guide us forward, to give us the word that we are needing in that moment. Then after praying, you open the book at a random section and you go through and you read the section out loud also. After reading the section, you interpret this to the best of your understanding. Talk about what you've read. Talk about what stuck out to you. Talk about how you felt during this. Talk about if this applies to your life, how it applies to your life. What challenges are you facing and how can you use this word to address these challenges? And then you have an open, healthy conversation with those around you to exchange information, to exchange ideas, always with love, always with compassion in our mind. After concluding the session, we then close the book, pray once again, thanking God, thanking Jesus for their blessing and the good spirits for participating and for energizing our waters, and also praying for protection and guidance throughout our week or throughout our days, so that we can always be called and reminded of the good words that we need, the good morals that we should be applying in our day-to-day, so that we can become better people, so that we can learn to coexist with others and love others more and more as the days go by. After you're done with praying, you can then drink the glass of water and enjoy the energies that have been given to us by our good brothers and sisters. The gospel at home doesn't take a long time. It should only take about 15 to 20 minutes, but if you'd like to also extend the time and make it much longer, feel free. It's just important that we do it, that we take some time to reflect, to think about how this applies to us, and to ponder on the ideas that we are reading. It's important that we not only talk the talk, but that we actually walk the walk. What does this mean? We need to make a change within ourselves. We need to fight against our bad habits, our bad instincts, and our bad behaviors, things that don't benefit us. We need to drown out these actions with good actions. We need to replace the negative and bring positivity into our lives, whatever that means to each and every one of us. We work on ourselves by applying self-knowledge, knowledge, and also charity. Self-knowledge because it's important that we reflect on our internal emotions. Why do I feel like this when this happens? What is going on in my mind? Why am I impatient? Why am I angry? Why do I do the things that I do? It's important that we analyze ourselves through a loving light, through a loving lens, taking a look at ourselves, accepting ourselves, forgiving ourselves, and moving forward after seeing what needs to be changed by changing it. Knowledge is important because we need to expand our mental capacity through other things that are not known to us at this moment. What does this mean? This means learning about science, learning about literature, art, history, learning a new instrument, and about music, singing, dancing, learning a new language, learning about culture, anything that expands our mental capacity, that opens our own mind to other ways of living, ways that gives us insight into pieces of information that we didn't know prior to the experience, things that we didn't know before. Life is a constant learning process. Just because we're no longer in school doesn't mean that we should stop learning. We need to always learn because it helps stimulate our mental capacity. Not only that, but it helps us expand our internal light, to be more compassionate to other ways of living, to understand that life isn't only lived through my own culture, through my own point of view, but it can also be expressed through other people's points of view and other ways of living in other cultures. And charity, this is also highly, highly important. Material charity and also moral charity. The material aspect means that we need to give food to those who have. If I have an abundance of food, I need to give food to those who don't. If I have an abundance of money, I need to give it to those who may be unemployed or incapacitated to work. If I have clothes, I can donate it to others who don't. If I have anything material, a computer, a cell phone, a bed, a mattress, anything that you can think of materially speaking, if you don't need it, or if you have an abundance of this resource, you can donate it to others who don't have the resources or the capacity of attaining these resources that you have. This is material charity. But moral charity is also highly important. Being patient with those who are stressed and agitated. Being loving towards those who are hating you. Being understanding and compassionate to those who are different, to those who are stuck in a different mentality than what we are. Forgiving someone who has done us wrong, and also asking for forgiveness when we have fallen short in our obligations towards others. Being charitable is all about being benevolent and loving others around you. How can I love? Charity is the way. The intimate reform is highly important because it is a process. It doesn't happen from one day to the other. So we can't expect that these changes are instant. We need to work on this every day. When we have the capacity to work towards this, the intimate reform is intimate. That is, it is my own. Nobody is going to be able to take me on this journey of change unless I take myself on it. That is, procrastinating is not going to help you. It is important that if you really want to make a change, if you really want to be happy, if you really want to be loving towards others, and you want to participate in this new world that we're transitioning into, if you want to live in peace and in harmony with others, then it's important that you do the intimate reform. Stop making excuses. Do the intimate reform. Do this for yourself. This will help you. This will give you the tools to become a better person, a more happy person, a much kinder human being. I want to emphasize the idea that Spiritism is not here to replace any religion. It's not here to tell you what to do. Spiritism is here to illuminate the idea of what we do, has a consequence. Every action has a reaction. What we put out in the world, we get back. Spiritism is here to guide us into how we can live better lives, moral lives, happier lives, how we can coexist with our brothers and sisters of our own faith, of different faiths. Spiritism is here to help guide the way forward into this new planet, this new transition that we are taking in. The world is undergoing deep changes. Social structures are changing. Economic structures are changing. Political structures are also changing. We can see this by all the turmoil that we are facing in our world. We can see this from COVID, globalization, technology. The way of exchanging information is expanding our capacities, and it allows us to move forward. It's given us the possibility to transition into this new planet, but we need to be given guidelines to understand how we can live in peace, how we can live in coexistence with everybody around us. I have the right to decide and to live the life that I want to. You have the right and the capacity to decide for yourself what you want. We all have free will. But in this free will, we also need to understand that everybody else around us also has free will. We need to respect our neighbor. We need to respect ourselves. So if you're new to Spiritism, try to follow these 5 tips. Let me know in the comments below what you think. If you have any ideas as to anything that I've perhaps forgotten or left out, please leave it in the comment section below. Remember to like and subscribe this video. And I also ask Jesus, the good spirits, and God above everything else to illuminate our path, to guide us forward into becoming better, happier people, to becoming a better human civilization, united. So be it. Now I want to thank you for sticking along this far into the video. Now we're going to talk about a very serious aspect that really needs to be addressed. Nowadays, during COVID, during these times where the world is under turmoil and under transition, mental health is of the utmost importance. That is, a lot of people first start with sadness, start with disappointment, but they feed this idea, or maybe they're unable to remove themselves from this mental process, and then we start leading ourselves into depression. We start digging ourselves deeper and deeper. Depression can come about for many different reasons, so it's important that we seek a mental health professional. Go to a psychologist, go to a therapist, seek the help and the assistance from somebody in the medical field who will be able to assist you with this. But not only that, go forward with the intimate reform. Try to be kind towards others, even if within yourself you may not feel the energy to live. Make yourself useful, please, because the world needs you. Everybody in this world is essential. Suicide is definitely not the way to go forward. It's not going to make things any better. If you have a problem this size, suicide will multiply it tenfold, because the inferior spirit world is very attentive and very motivating in terms of wanting people to commit these grave mistakes that won't help in the end. Talk to a friend or family member. Talk to a stranger. Go to a health professional if anything. Please call a suicide hotline. We are all here to help you. You are not alone in this path. We all struggle, and it's important to lean on other people when we are at our deepest, darkest moments. Don't go through this alone. Look for help, please.